Hi, good morning, and welcome to another episode of Furman Transformation Podcast. We have got a very, very cool topic for today. Now, this topic is going to go a little bit more under the hood in terms of a little bit more of technicality. So, if you don't quite get it, that's okay. It's just going to be a little bit more in depth. But if you pay very, very close attention, you will understand this concept, and it's got the potential to really change the way you view tech and also change your actions and how you carry out and essentially acclimate yourself to these changes. So that being said, today's episode is going to be entitled Pinpointing a Technological Trend. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and take a quick sip of water here. Now, what do I mean by pinpointing a technological trend? Well, if you've been paying attention to what's going on right now in business and in tech, tech is all the buzz. We know that because the reason is that just about every single arena that you could possibly have a business in is fusing with information technology, is fusing with computing. Now, why is this so important? Because computing is at a point where it's more powerful than it's ever been. I mean, you're talking about, having, if you just look at it from a consumer standpoint, things that a supercomputer could do maybe 20 years ago, your smartphone in your pocket can do many, many more times that. So that same concept now, apply that to every field, every science, and extrapolate the advances that we have, and now extrapolate that to where we're going. So what I want to really do to make a very simple objective here is for anybody, I don't care what field you're in, whether you're in computing, nanotechnology, biotechnology, AI, medicine, energy, robotics, neuroscience, whatever industry you're in. Obviously, those are all very, very influenced by tech right now. If there are any of those or others that I haven't mentioned, I want you to be able to look at your industry, your field, and develop a gut feeling, an intuition as to when and how the next trend will occur so that you can foresee what's going to happen and when it's going to happen before everybody else, and get on that wave before your competition. Okay? That's the objective of this episode. Okay, now what I'm going to do, the way that I'm going to explain this, is I'm going to break it down by combining two concepts. Okay? Now, again, I'm standing on shoulders of giants with this, so I'm not going to claim to be, some tech expert, or a Ray Kurzweil. But what I will say, and a genius in my book, what I will say is that I understand enough of what these people are talking about to put two concepts together that allow me to see something that many others may not, and also allow me for me to be able to show others how to see that. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do is take two concepts and smash them together in a way that you may not have seen before, okay, that may have not been done before. Okay, so the first concept is going to come from an industry called NLP, or Neuro-Linguistic Programming, which is essentially the study of the mind. The practical applications of very cool things you can do with your mind, okay? Like a practical psychology. Neuro-linguistic programming actually came about in the 80s. This is essentially one of the concepts. There are many, many concepts to it, but it's essentially being able to really master your mind. And I want to sort of dive into this specific concept and explain this one first, and then you'll see how this relates. So what I want to talk about, first of all, is that you can think of your brain as hardware. The best way to do it right now is to think of your brain as hardware and your mind as the software. Okay, if you can imagine that concept for a second, that truly is what you have. on your shoulders. Okay, that's your brain and your mind. Okay, so imagine this, understand this. Okay, every second, and you got a lot of seconds in the day, but every second, your brain is receiving inputs. Okay, input stimuli of between 4 to 6 billion bits of information per second. Every single second. Now think about it. I want to stop and say that again. Every second, your brain is receiving inputs of between 4 to 6 billion bits of information per second. Okay, what does that mean? That means through your major inputs, which are if you look at brain as if you think of brain as hardware, your inputs to the brain and into the mind, to the software, are going to be the 5 basic senses, right? So what you see visually, what you hear auditorily, what you touch or feel kinesthetically, what you taste and what you smell. Those are the inputs that allow us to take in information from our environment, internalize them into our brain, and ultimately make sense of them in our mind. Okay? Now that's a lot of information, right? All this information, 4 to 6 billion, if you can even fathom 4 to 6 billion bits of information, the human mind can't even fathom what that means. That's a lot. It's a lot of information. But the brain's taking it all in. Now, what happens is, of that 4 to 6 billion bits of information that you did actually receive, so it's in there to some extent, your mind is only registering approximately 2,000 of those bits. Now, that's a big difference. That's still a lot of bits, but if you comparatively, relatively speaking, that's a big difference. It's a big difference. So 2,000 bits of information, if you took in 4 to 6 billion, that means that you're only getting a very, very small tunnel of everything that's going on around you, just in your immediate vicinity, right? So you're only seeing 2,000 bits. Now the question is, which 2,000 bits are you seeing? That's an interesting question. Which 2,000 bits of information are you seeing? Well, the answer to that is you see what you allow yourself to see. So every human being, that being said, every human being ultimately will craft his or her own reality by the things that they choose to see. Now, many of us have a very, very similar reality. Nobody's going to have an exact same reality, but many of us in the mainstream world have a very similar reality because we surround ourselves with and pay attention to the things that we're told to surround ourselves with and pay attention to. Okay? Some examples of that would be watching the same TV shows. We watch Fox News, we watch CNN, right? Okay? We watch Kardashians. We watch Practical Jokers, right? We're all watching the same TV shows, okay? We're being told what to accept or what to understand as what reality is. That's our baseline, and most people are on a very similar wavelength, okay? TV shows, good example. Okay, what's another example? What's another example? We have the same types of offices, right? We go to work. We all go to work. We have the same routines, very similar routines. We go to work, and we go to a cubicle or an office, and we sit down in front of a computer, and it's they're all pretty much the same, and we go through our day, right? And we have lunch, and then we're it's the end of the day. It's the same routine. It's the same office. Now you look at start to stray from that, right? What could be different? Well, look at Google. Google did a perfect example of that. Look at their offices. Their offices are totally different than a normal office. And whether they know consciously what they're doing or not, what are they doing is they're creating an environment very different that's going to cultivate a very different level of creativity with their nap pods and their bicycles and everything that they're doing, allowing for a different reality or an understanding, the ability to see a new reality. Okay, so that's how it strays, right? That's how it's different. Okay, but most people are, again, watching the same TV shows, in the same offices, doing the same routines, stuck in the same dysfunctional relationships, right? They don't know anything different. So that's what we continue to do, unless you know how to break out of that, right? And most people don't realize, or they say, well, my reality, this is the only reality. What I see, what I understand, this is the only reality. Well, it's the farthest thing from the truth. There are so many different realities. There are almost infinite number. I don't think infinite, almost an infinite number of combinations of realities. And when you understand that, you can actually create your own reality, that's when it gets very cool and very interesting. Now, how do you do that? How can you change what you're seeing? How can you change what you're seeing in the world? And what you understand, what you know, what you think you know? How do you change that? Okay? Well, let's take the first example I said, watching TV shows, right? Maybe 90% of the population comes home after a day of work, they sit on the couch, or they go to the gym and they come back and they sit on the couch and they watch TV, right? They watch the same 50 cable channels that we're told to watch. Taking in the same ideals, the same commercials, the same everything nonsense that they want to put in your head, that's what you're seeing. That's what you're internalizing, and that is your reality. It is a constant, consistent thing that is continually drilled into your skull, into your brain, into your mind, and that becomes your reality or your baseline of what is normal or what is real. Okay? Now, you're also maybe, surrounding yourself. They say, you're the average of the same people, 3 people you surround yourself with. It's the same concept. Now, somebody that wants to get out of that, okay, very simply could get on YouTube and, and start to watch different things, right? Different actual things that are going on in the world that the TV is not going to show you, okay? You could also then get on a social network and connect with people that are doing things different from what you maybe have understood, okay? You can subscribe to publications, tech publications. So you can read, 1 to 2 blog posts a day. So what happens is, you realize this concept. Now you take the concept, okay, and you apply it to tech, and you surround yourself with people, stimuli, videos, articles, blogs, books on what's going on. And you don't do it with the objective to learn something. You do it with the objective of making this your new reality. Surrounding yourself with new stimuli that will become your new reality. Because if you just go in saying, well, I'm going to just do this, I'm going to read this or watch that or connect with one person, you're not going to get the result. You've got to literally surround and immerse yourself in what you want to see. Now, speaking about tech, we're talking about tech. We were talking about pinpointing a technological trend. How do we do this in tech? Okay, well, the first thing I think you need to do is you need to actually zoom out. Okay, if you can imagine your brain as a computer, right? You need to actually zoom out, far, far, far out. And you need to look at each one of these technologies, first of all, and see, computing, see nanotechnology, see biotechnology, see AI, see medicine, see energy, see robotics, see neuroscience. Okay? See the very, very broad things. Or if you were interested in other things, you could even zoom out further and see political change, see developments in human history, see wars being fought, see love, see hate. You could zoom out further. So it's all about what level of focus you have, right? But we're zooming in to technological trends. So we're going to see computing, nanotechnology, biotechnology, AI, medicine, energy, robotics, neuroscience, right? That's our baseline, okay? We're going to see that, and then we're going to pay attention and surround ourselves with trends and things that are occurring. So we want to be subscribing to, general tech. Again, general tech publications. We want to be watching general tech videos. We want to be connecting with people who are doing things in general tech, right? Now, if you're specifically, working in one of these, then you immerse yourself in that. If you're in AI, you're going to immerse yourself in every trend, everything going on in AI. If you're in robotics, you're going to immerse yourself with everything going on in robotics. That becomes your reality. Okay, that becomes your reality. It becomes what you think about. That's what becomes what you feel. That becomes a piece of who you are, a piece of your identity, a piece of something that you understand, and a part of that 2,000 bits that you're going to see every day. Okay, so realizing that you can zoom out and zoom in on different things. Okay, now if you're, for example, if you're just a general big box retailer, you may need to just zoom out and see all of those sciences and see how trends are affecting them, right? So you want to see computing, nanotechnology, biotechnology, AI, medicine, energy, robotics, neuroscience, and many, many others. You want to see all of them, okay? And you want to see what's going on so that even though you're not exactly specifically a tech company, you can see how the trends are progressing. You can feel the intuition of how they're progressing, and you'll know when to act to have just a little bit of an edge over the next person or the next competition, because you'll develop an intuition for it. Okay? So that's number one. That is the first concept, again, which came from a concept in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, not to be confused with natural language processing, which is something else in tech. It's different. It's an AI term, but neuro-linguistic programming. Now, you've calibrated your mind to see these tech trends, right? Depending at the layer, the level that you're focusing in on. I should say also, okay, so depending on the layer, the level you're focusing in on, you're now seeing that, because you're not just doing it for an outcome. You're doing it to now surround yourself and literally craft a new reality, or new perception for yourself of what actually is reality. That's becoming a new piece of you, right? So understand that concept. That you then have to understand, and this is a big thing now in the tech industry. If you listen to Ray Kurzweil, he's one of the top futurists, I think in the world right now. High on the ladder at Google, and what he talks about a lot is Moore's Law. Moore's Law, invented by Gordon Moore. Essentially, it is an exponential bell curve. You can think of what an exponential bell curve looks like. The principle of Moore's Law. Again, this is a different concept. So put the other one on hold for a second. Now think about this, and then I'll show you how they connect. But right now we're talking about Moore's Law. So Moore's Law in the realm of technology. Okay, think about an exponential bell curve. Okay, what Moore's Law states is that the number of transistors in a CPU doubles every 18 months. Okay. So essentially what that means is computing is progressing exponentially. Now, that may not sound like a lot. If you say, well, they're just doubling every 18 months, so what, every 18 months they're doubling. It's not that much, and it just seems maybe linear to some people. But consider this, okay? Maybe you're familiar with that old metaphor. If you doubled a penny every day for 30 days, if I said I'm going to double a penny every day for 30 days, how much money would you have at the end of that 30th day? Maybe you know the answer to this. But if you haven't heard this before, I might say I could either double a penny every day for 30 days, or I could give you $100,000. What would you prefer? Most normal people, thinking linearly, would immediately say, give me the $100,000. I want a penny doubled every day, right? What is a penny double every day? Well, the interesting thing here is that a penny doubled every day for 30 days will actually result in an exponential return at the end of that 30th day of over $5 million. Okay? That's a lot. That's a lot of money. Now, put that in the same context of Moore's Law, of how computing is advancing. That's the same principle. So computing is not advancing linearly, it's advancing exponentially, right? We're at a time right now, we're actually on the precipice of that exponential bell curve. Literally on the precipice of an upward trajectory, the likes of which mankind or any of us have ever seen. Now, what's more than that is that every one of these fields, every science, every field that we work in is becoming an information technology. So before, they were progressing linearly, but now that every technology is becoming a computing technology with the concept of Moore's Law being how it is, doubling every 2 years, but that concept, now you can say Moore's Law for every field that has computing integrated into it. That's a scary concept, but a very, very cool one if you understand it. Very cool concept. Now, how do we interpret this? Right? Okay, I understand somewhat what you're saying, John. I understand it. Well, how do I make sense of it? Well, now is where you combine the two. So you look at Moore's Law. First of all, you focus in on tech. Right? You focus in on what the tech aspects or the tech fields that are going to apply the most to you. Or again, if you're more of a general store, you're just looking at what's going to happen. You want to have that bird's eye view. You're going to look at all the fields. Right? If you're in a specific field, you may only want to just look at yours, but you probably want to have a bit of a bird's eye view as well, because all of those fields are going to intersect at some level. Right? So you essentially will view your field, also zoom out and see the other fields, and see where the trend is. What is the development right now? Okay? Where are we at right now? And then what is projected? Maybe not in when, the timeline, because you'll understand the timeline, but when is it projected? What is projected? What is the next projected advancement of that technology? What is the next projected advancement of that next technology, right? And you'll start to see how they advance, and you'll also start to see how they interconnect. And when you can do that and then sort of see and map it out on an upward bell curve, you can begin to develop a gut level intuition onto how that change is going to happen. And it may not be something that you can put your finger on, but you'll understand it well enough to the point where you'll have an ability over most people in pinpointing a technological trend. I know that was a lot. I know that was a little bit out of the ordinary, but it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. And in putting those two concepts together, I urge you to really let that sink in. Really think about that. Understand it, and then feel it for yourself, and feel the ability that that gives you, and then internalize. And once you've internalized, put it into action. Now, if it was over your head, don't worry about it. Most of the episodes are not going to be this technical. But if you understand it, or you have a little bit of an understanding, let it sink in. Because if you let it sink in, you're going to get it. All right. Thanks again for listening. This was a Furman Transformation Podcast. Again, we're a growth agency for tech companies. We're catalyzing a lot of this growth right now and taking a lot of these companies to that next level. And we want to we want to produce winners. We want to work with winners and produce winners. So if you think you're a winner, if you consider yourself to be a winner, you give me a call and we'll talk. Again, 561-571-0638. Jonathan Furman, Furman Transformation. Thanks so much.